This first presentation for Info 266 Collection Development with Dr. Lorcher is on the Lynbrook High School library community. You can access these slides at the URL posted here and note case sensitivity. Hi, I'm Amy Ashworth and I'm the LMT or Teacher Librarian at Lynbrook High School in the Fremont Union High School District. Our schools are in Cupertino, Sunnyvale, and San Jose. Each school has its own full-time LMT and library media specialist. This is a summary of our function in the LHS community. We are a public school library that serves the student body and school staff, both teachers and classified personnel. We host lots of events in addition to regular accommodation for classes. The library has two flexible lab spaces, and the main library contains both our print collection and a class workspace equipped with computer stations and Chromebooks that also serves as a space for staff professional development. For students, the library is primarily a hangout space. During tutorial period, which is like study hall, brunch, lunch, and after school, the library is most often at or beyond capacity. Finally, the library is a resource hub. Students hanging out in the library might also be checking out books for a class or for research purposes, accessing School Loop to check grades or work on schoolwork, or they might be printing out documents for a class. The usefulness of the library mirrors the LHS mission and vision, which are all about creating an equitable learning environment that produces students who are college and career ready. First, let's learn more about the community. At a student population of 1741, we are the smallest school in our district. Our numbers are projected to decrease as the aging baby boomer population increases. However, there is an active district community advisory committee that is working with all of the shareholders to ensure that Lynbrook maintains its staff and student offerings. A majority of the LHS students live in the enrollment area, and most of these families are in the high-tech industry with college and graduate or post-college degrees. The majority of students at LHS are part of the Asian demographic. This includes not only U.S.-born or immigrant Chinese, Korean, and Japanese, but also students who either come from or have parents who come from Central and South Asia, most notably those from India and Pakistan. We have English language learner programs that begin with ELD 2. Because our school is the smallest, we've had some trouble with tiny classes of ELD 1 and ELD 2, so the students in the LHS enrollment area who are at the ELD 1 level must attend Cupertino High, and Cupertino sends ELD 2 students our way. The free and reduced lunch percentage is an indicator of students from low-income families. In addition to regular program of study, which serves the majority of students who are diploma and college or career-bound, LHS also hosts many specialized programs for students with special needs, or who are severely handicapped. This 9% of the population is a small number of students, but they form an important part of the patron pool for the library. Many of these students are often in the library during odd moments of the day, and I've had 4 valuable teacher's aides from the Voyager and SAI programs in the past 3 years. This college admission rates chart is included to show the number of students who graduate to attend 4-year schools. As you can see, the majority of graduates, and our graduation rate is 98%, attend a 4-year school after graduation. Since our mission is equity for all students, there is a big surge towards college and career readiness, with the expected end result that you'll be ready for whatever you want to do after you graduate. As for the library community, we have a 100% use rate among all students at various times of their freshman year. All freshman students attend a library orientation, and the LMT has an embedded information literacy scope and sequence into the English classes. This means that sophomores, juniors, and seniors also get information literacy instruction at varying points in their high school years. As I mentioned before, the library sees lots of use over the regular day, not just by teachers bringing their classes to use the labs, but by students who are hanging out. We have ASB activities and club meetups, in addition to author visits, book matches, and other library-run programs. Our Students for Literacy Club is active in the library, creating displays and hosting reviewer parties. Beyond the 2 or 3 research lessons that we teach in the library, there are many students who, after they're done with their research, don't come back to the library. There might be reluctant library users, but there are lots of really good excuses why students stay away. The first is that students in this community are highly motivated. I've spoken to students who complain that they don't have time to spend browsing the shelves, nor do they feel that they have time to spend on reading for pleasure. Students have lots of other places to be as well. They may regularly spend tutorial in a teacher's classroom, their friends hang out at a different part of the campus, or they are involved in lots of other clubs and programs that keep them away. The gap between users and non-users is really busyness. So closing the gap means actively injecting scope and sequence into other academics besides English, teaching lessons not just on citing sources and finding articles and databases, but also data literacy for math, science, and social studies. Bridging the gap also means providing more opportunities for busy students to get into reading for pleasure. There is a lot of room for creative ways to do this. One that I'm interested in trying is something that I heard about at the recent CSLA, California School Library Association conference, and that is genreification. It's put fiction and nonfiction together and makes it to where students browse easily by genre rather than by searching using the Dewey system. In an effort to bridge the gap between library users and non-users, we now move into a brief survey of the curriculum to see where we can embed literacy instruction. A good place to begin with the process of seeing how information literacy can cross over to world history is here in the crosswalk between CCSS in reading for history and AASL standards for the 21st century learner. By today's standards, students who attend high school need to finish with some important practical skills. In general, these skills are termed 21st century skills and are a move away from rote content-based learning towards skills in collaboration, character, and citizenship, critical and creative thinking, and communication. If you access the slideshow, you can get to the PDF of the document here, but it's easily searchable online. A really great place to draw out the areas where information literacy instruction can really work well, and one that hasn't seen enough of this collaboration between librarian and subject teacher at LHS, is world history. In this class, students are studying some great primary and secondary sources that compare various historical perspectives. They are also learning about current world issues, all with a focus on making connections. There are some very specific areas in world history that information literacy, or IL, instruction can really fly. The first is the imperialism unit, where students are expected to look at various primary and secondary sources in order to make comparisons and draw conclusions about historical events. The second place to embed IL instruction is in the study of current world issues. Students are expected to learn the difference between fake news and fact and develop skills in determining bias. This piece is a current that runs through a lot of subject areas, not just history. Finally, in the interdependence of people and cultures, there is a lot of room for data literacy instruction. Students are expected to not only read data, but to present the data that they synthesize. The standards shown here are just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to information literacy instruction, or 21st century skills, and CCSS for history. I have begun collaborating with one of 3 world history instructors to add rigorous measurable information literacy portions to his assignments in the areas listed above, but I've barely scratched the surface and know that I can add meaningful layers of learning. The last piece of this presentation is comparing findings from other libraries in our course workshops. Having time to speak with other high school librarians in our course workshop was helpful in that we saw common threads in our communities. First off, we collected our data from similar areas and were able to give tips on additional places to look for demographic information. We agreed that 3 to 4 year data discrepancies were okay as long as the numbers weren't completely skewed. Secondly, we all struggle with reaching out to teachers in lots of places. We found that we're pretty good in 1 or 2 departments like English and social studies, but science, math, PE, and arts are places we can definitely put more effort into supporting. Finally, when it came to wrapping our heads around the curriculum, we hadn't put significant effort into getting out there and sifting through the finds. Even with the AASL crosswalks like I've used in my presentation to compare standards, I needed to talk with my social studies peers to get specifics. Whether public, academic, or K-12 libraries, there are some interesting common threads that run through the community surveys. We are all working toward the common goal of serving our patrons. Despite budgetary restrictions that cut programs and staff, and despite access issues like language access issues, restricted hours, as well as equitable access to services for all patrons, we hope to ensure and strive to ensure that our patrons are looked after. Lots of us are dealing with connections between patrons and libraries through online services. We know that there are lots of free tools that can benefit our patrons. I noted 3 major distinctions between high school libraries and the other types of libraries. The obvious difference is the variety of patrons served in both public and academic libraries versus K-12 libraries. In that same vein, I noted that school libraries have a wealth of available data that other libraries don't have, which means that they need to do more varied needs assessments to learn about their patrons. Note here that point 2 is the same for commonalities and distinctions. High schools have different budget issues, most notably the lack of budget for statewide full-time teacher librarians at all school sites. We also have budgetary restrictions on the kind of services we can provide, but because we are at school sites, we need to be on top of this issue. Students that lack access translate to students who may fail courses or not graduate. Lastly, the community survey afforded a valuable look at how each site is unique. Each library is an entity unto itself, even if we have similar demographics, or similar patron pools, or similar funding issues. Our libraries are peopled with individuals that make each community a special place. Thanks. If you have any questions, you can find me at Amy M. Ashworth. These are the credits for the demographic information I found and the link to the AASL crosswalk, as well as the bit link to this slideshow.